In this tutorial, we're going to take a look at the Microsoft hypervisor called Hyper-V. Hyper-V requires a system that has 64-bit processors, so you cannot install Hyper-V if your computer contains 32-bit processors. The system must also support hardware-assisted virtualization and also support data execution prevention. You can determine if your system provides these by going to the system's BIOS to determine if these technologies are available. Hyper-V can be installed in one of two ways. You can either install it as a server rule on Server 2008, or you can download the free version Hyper-V Core from Microsoft. Now, I've installed Hyper-V Server 2008 Core Edition on a 64-bit system, and as you can see here, you're not presented with the GUI because this is the core edition of Hyper-V, and you do all your administration of the server from this menu or from PowerShell. So, for example, you can join the machine to a domain. You can add a local administrator, which allows users to remotely connect to the Hyper-V server so that they can create virtual machines, and you can change the network settings from the same menu. So this is what Hyper-V Core Edition looks like on a 64-bit operating system. All your virtual machine creation and virtual machine configuration are not done from this interface, but rather from HyperV Manager or System Center Virtual Machine Manager. So let's look at these two different methods of creating and managing your virtual machines on Hyper-V 2008. So you can open up Hyper-V Manager from Administrative Tools on Server 2008, or if you have Windows 7 or Windows Vista, you can install the RSAT Tools, Remote Server Administration Tools. But remember that you cannot install Hyper-V Manager on a Windows XP or 2003 based system. In this window, I have my two Hyper-V hosts, Hyper-V T and Hyper-V T2, and on both of them I have virtual machines running. From the same interface, I can right-click a virtual machine and select Connect. I can start the virtual machine, I can take a snapshot of it, and I can also right-click and connect to an existing running virtual machine so that I can log into that system, as you can see here. So let me close this virtual machine. If I go to Properties, I can change certain settings on a virtual machine. I can add hardware, I can add hard drives, I can add network cards, etc. I can also import and export a virtual machine from one Hyper-V host to another Hyper-V host. So this is just one way of creating virtual machines on Hyper-V, and this is the most common way that you would manage and create your virtual machines. The other way, which is more expensive because you need to buy this software, is through System Center Virtual Machine Manager or SCVMM. Now this software provides some additional features in addition to what you can do in Hyper-V. For example, you can convert a physical server to a virtual machine, so you can virtualize a physical server. You can also convert other virtual machines. If you have virtual server or VMware server virtual machines, you can convert those so those virtual machines can be managed by Hyper-V hosts. And also you can migrate a virtual machine from one host to another much more simply by right-clicking on a virtual machine, select Migrate, and then the wizard is going to select the most appropriate system for you. So I'm just going to proceed with this wizard. So I'm moving it from Hyper-V T2 to Hyper-V T. The move has begun, and this is much easier than if you had to do an export and import on Hyper-V Manager. You can also do what is called a live migration if you have clustered your Hyper-V servers, so that you can actually continue to use a virtual machine while it's in the process of migration. And that involves behind the scenes copying the memory state from the source server to the target server, thereby allowing the virtual machine to remain online so that users can access it while the virtual machine is being moved or migrated to another Hyper-V host. Keep in mind that that feature called live migration is only available in Hyper-V 2008 R2 edition. And again, remember that SCVMM is not required to create and manage your virtual machines. You can use HyperV Manager. It can do almost everything that you need to do on Hyper-V. And you can also install the remote server administration tools on Windows Vista and Windows 7, which will give you Hyper-V Manager and those systems so that you can do the same. Keep in mind that you also cannot manage Hyper-V from a XP machine or 2003 machine because Hyper-V is not available. Hyper-V Manager is not available as an administrative tool on those systems. A couple side notes: if you install and use Hyper-V Manager on a 32-bit Windows Vista or Windows 7 operating system, you may need to run the following command on your Hyper-V Core Edition installation in order to manage Hyper-V from a 32-bit Windows 7 or Windows Vista system. Also, you can check out this blog from Jose Barreto on the following link if you'd like to test Hyper-V failover clustering and test the live migration feature. In this particular blog, Jose explains how you can cluster Hyper-V machines without having a dedicated storage such as a SAN, but you can use shared folders for your clustering. Okay, the virtual machine XP has moved from this host to this host, and I can right click and start this virtual machine if I want. Some other useful things that you can do with Virtual Machine Manager: you can set a minimum amount of resources that you want to reserve for the host. For example, for this server, I can set the minimum resources that this host needs to have. Also, you can install the Virtual Machine Manager Service Portal with Virtual Machine Manager, which allows users to create virtual machines using a web-based interface. You can also assign permissions to users as to what they can do for those virtual machines, whether they can start or stop those virtual machines. So as you can see here, the administrator can start and stop virtual machines or can create new virtual machines from this web interface. So a couple useful features that you get when you install Virtual Machine Manager. Well, this concludes our tutorial on Hyper-V and Virtual Machine Manager, and I hope that this has been informative.